On your Persona addiction arc? People keep bringing up stuff that I, like, intend on doing, but I have never played a Persona game. I've heard very good things. I'm just not a very big RPG person, so I don't know if I would enjoy it. I should try it, though. Thank you, Pretender Pisswall. Did you change your name around? Did you swap it? You know what RPG I think is actually the worst thing to exist? And this is gonna piss some people off. Pokemon. And I don't mean that because I dislike the franchise. I actually think Pokemon has massive potential. I just think they know how many people buy their game, so they just have stopped caring. And it makes me so sad. Any specific Pokemon, anyone past, like, Sun and Moon. Actually, no, anyone past, like, X and Y, we'll say. All of those newer ones, they've, like, actually dropped the ball so hard. Because they know that people will buy their game no matter what. Pokemon is the biggest franchise in the world. Bigger than Mario, bigger than Zelda, bigger than Halo, bigger than, I don't know, whatever PlayStation exclusives they have. And they still have the worst looking graphics out there. They still have zero, like, voice lines. They still have the worst designed Pokemon ever. Look, I didn't play a lot of the newer games, mainly because I disliked them. Also, thank you, Milan. Good morning. Hope you're doing well. But there is a Pokemon, I'm gonna bring it up on the screen. Google Jarvis, show me Flamigo. Pokemon. The fact that I have to define that I'm looking for the Pokemon is the problem here. It is a Pokemon called Flamigo. It's one letter off being flamingo, and it looks exactly like a flamingo. This is the kind of designs they're making now. You are the biggest franchise in the world, and you're telling me this is the best they could come up with. I understand. They've got 1,000 of these fuckers. They have a lot of, like, ideas that they've already used and can't reuse. But at that point, stop making Pokemon. Just stop. Just use the ones you've got. Bring some old ones back. I know you have the National Dex or whatever it's called in all the previous games that, lets you play with all the Pokemon, but make them native to the area so that you don't have to come up with Flamigo. Because no one, and I'm telling you, no one is impressed when you just take a flamingo drawing and get rid of one of the letters and say, yep, that's one of our new Pokemon. Shut the fuck up. Use the resources you have as the biggest franchise on the planet, and make something out of it. Don't make a game that has PS1 level graphics. Don't make a game that has zero voice lines. Don't make a game that has a 30-minute unskippable tutorial with looping music track. Don't make the music cut as soon as you go to a different area and go to something else. Don't make the game have all these bugs and glitches. You are the biggest franchise on the planet. You can do better. So, fuck you, Pokemon. I hate you. Actually die in a fire. Rant over. Fuck me. Sorry, Pokemon pisses me off. White version 2 is the best Pokemon game. I shouldn't have gotten that frustrated, but, like, if I'm playing Pokemon, I expect to see Pokemon, not a fucking flamingo. And, like, all of the advertising material for their new games only shows the starters. And I get it. Like, they're supposed to be, like, the staple Pokemon of that, like, era. They're supposed to be, like, the ones that people think about when they think of that generation of Pokemon. But if the best you can come up with per generation is, like, 3 Pokemon out of the 100 that you create and add, there's a problem. There is a serious problem if all you can come up with that people are excited to see in promotional material is like 3 of them. And everyone says, oh my god, I love the Legends Arceus game. I admit that was a step in the right direction. Like, I fully admit that yes, Arceus is one of the better Pokemon games to come out in the last, like, 3 billion that they've made in 2 years. But, listen, it still has shit graphics, which I know people are willing to overlook, but I'm just simply not when it comes to Pokemon of all games. It still has 30 minutes of tutorial text at the start, which is unbearable to get through. It still has looping music track. And then at the end of the day, there's still a bunch of glitches and bugs. And it's just not acceptable. It's just not. Detective Pikachu Returns that's coming out in like a couple months has worse graphics than the 3DS version of the game. It just does. And I don't know how that is possible. I don't get what they're doing. I need to go to the Pokemon office and I need to like actually just observe the lack of effort they're putting in. People shit on Mojang when they add like 2 new blocks per update. Bro, look at Pokemon. They're adding a flamingo and scrapping a letter. Sorry, I'm in the mood to shit on Pokemon right now. And you know what? I have all of the Switch games. Not all of them. I don't have the Diamond and Pearl remakes. I have the Dungeons, I have Let's Go, I have Shield, I have Violet, I have Arceus. And like, you know, I can say I've played all of those games. I haven't finished any, except Let's Go. I think I finished Let's Go. And it's sad. Let's Go, which has almost all of the same problems as the newer games, I still enjoyed so much more because they used the story of the first game. It's like it's a Gen 1 remake. And Gen 1 people still look to as one of the better Pokemon games. And that's disappointing. If you're like 20 years deep into this thing and people still look at your first iteration and go, that was peak, there's a fucking problem. And I get it, Let's Go was a really easy game. Like, it was stupidly easy. But I have never had a problem playing a Pokemon game. I've never found a Pokemon game genuinely difficult to the point where I'm like, damn, I can't play this. That's your opinion, I respect it, Scorch. I also disagree with Gen 1 being peak, but the fact that there is, like, at least a group of people out there, a large majority of people out there that go, I love Gen 1, I play Gen 1 to death, the remakes, everything, that's a problem. I can understand having some nostalgia or admiration for Generation 1, but if you are that deep in, and you still think that was the best, like, it pisses me off so much. I could not get past picking my starter Pokemon in Violet, and I got that game for free because Amazon fucked up. I did not pay a cent for Pokemon Violet, and I still could not get past picking my starter because I went to go and talk to the duck because I was going to get the duck, and then it made me pick a different one. Yeah, but there's also a lot of people that think Generation 1 was peak just because they enjoy Generation 1. And like, even if you say 3 to 5 was peak, that's like still more than 10 years ago that those games came out. And like, yeah, that's not as egregious as saying Gen 1. But like, Pokemon has had so long to evolve and do better, and they've just, like, regressed every single year. They have done worse, and it's because they're putting so much pressure on their team to release, like, 3 fucking games a year. I would much rather there be a single Pokemon game, hell, a single piece of Pokemon content, whether it be, like, new card decks or, like, you know, new plushies, whatever, every like 2 years. So that they're not stretching their team to the absolute thinnest. And you know what? Even then, that shouldn't be a problem. If you're stretching your team that thin to where the quality is that low, hire more people. Your Pokemon. Pokemon, your Pokemon. I'm looking at these games and I'm getting pissed off. I liked Mystery Dungeon DX because I had never played a Mystery Dungeon game before, but I will be the first to admit, based on what other people have said, that that is probably not a very good game either. Apparently there's some banger Mystery Dungeon games, and they just released one of the worst ones in probably the worst way. I enjoyed it, so I can't really comment on that much, so this will be the end of my rant on Mystery Dungeon. But if people are that upset, because I saw so many people upset with the Mystery Dungeon game on Switch, right? If people are that upset with the new content you're making and saying the old stuff was better, there's a problem, and Pokemon doesn't seem to care, because they just go, you know what, I'll just buy it anyway. People buy it anyway. There's still going to be millions and millions and millions of people that go out and buy the new Pokemon game. So what reason do they have to improve? Most people see Mega Man 2 as the best in the series, yes, and that's a problem. But I also have not heard of a new Mega Man release in like 20 years. I know there has been, but I sleep on Mega Man so much that I genuinely cannot care. Random indie companies have done better. Isn't Pokemon Emerald like a really popular fan game that people loved and adored? That Pokemon Fusion thing that I've seen people like Alfred play on stream, that's a fan game. And that's got a really interesting and cool concept. Pokemon can do that. If they wanted to, they would do that. But instead they'd much rather create a flamingo, say it's a new Pokemon, and move on. Thank you for the good luck. Emerald was a Gen 3 game. There was a fan release of something that was some kind of gem. To be honest, I've most likely gotten that name wrong. But I remember this was like 4 or 5 years ago, so it's probably well gone. But there was this like Pokemon fan game. It was named after some kind of gem. And people loved it. People thought this is so good. Nintendo took it down, you're right. But people thought that was like one of the best Pokemon games to come out. And it wasn't even official. And look, I'm not the biggest fan of Pokemon to begin with. Like, even I said White 2 was the best Pokemon game that I've played. And that's true, I really enjoyed White 2. But I still, like, you know, I'd much rather play a different game than Pokemon. But, like, it just upsets me from, like, even a neutral standpoint. Seeing that company do that bad when they have the most popular franchise on the planet. I don't know why I'm still talking about Pokemon. It has been, like, 10 minutes. New Ducker 2 upload, Duckable rants about Pokemon for like fucking forever. I have the Let's Go Pokeball Plus thing. Didn't they release like Let's Go like Plus or whatever? That's such a lazy name. That's such a lazy name. I forget what it's called. It was like the Pokemon Go Plus or something. What the fuck is that? At that point, just make a new product. Don't do plus. Let's go plus. I don't know. There was something Pokemon related that was plus. Alright? And they released like... Why would you release it? Just make a new, like, thing. Sounds like the 25th version of the iPhone 14. Look, Apple has the same problem, but I'm not ranting about Apple right now, alright? I think iPhones are genuinely so overrated. The only reason I have one is because the rest of my family has iPhones, we use Apple TVs, we use the iCloud. If I went out today and got like a Samsung, I would be so out of the loop on like the Apple ecosystem to where it would practically be unusable in my household. And that's how Apple syncs you in, by the way. They expect that you have all of their products and therefore can't transition away from Apple. That's their strategy. And I think Apple makes some great products like the watch. I love my Apple Watch. But, like, I will be the first to admit that the iPhone is very overrated because they do not innovate. You've never opened an Apple product and you're proud of it? Listen, as I just said, I would gladly go out and get, like, a Samsung phone if my, like, entire family didn't also have Apple devices. Because it would just make it impossible to do anything. Can you do your best Mario voice? I need to think about this, because I know I'm gonna butcher it. But you know what? Can't be worse than Milan's Toad voice in the hit Talk to speedrun.